Welcome back to the Future Leaders podcast, where we help you gain insights into the minds of successful entrepreneurs. Today, we're joined here with a very special guest who has over 15 years in the personal styling industry and now is on the lead of one of the biggest Australian institutes for styling in Australia. Thanks so much for joining us, Claire.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Of course you are.
I know. Of course I am. I'm really looking forward. I've been talking about it all day. I've been like, boys, we're on tonight.
He messaged me. He's like, I can't wait for this.
I would have thought that you would sick of hearing my voice by now, but yeah, it's so good to sort of be able to share the knowledge that I have with that experience and insights, because it's something that a lot of people actually don't invest in, which is their style, and yet it says so much about us.
100%. Like you just said, surprised you haven't got sick of it. I don't think I'll ever get sick of your voice. There's just something about the way that you articulate your words and the way that you engage with not only the students, but everyone in the life and people that you meet. It's just incredible to hear you in the way that you kind of come across.
Thank you. It's a learnt skill though.
Yeah.
We were talking about this today.
Yeah.
The presenting side of what I do is such a big part of what I love about my job. But it has taken time to, build the hours and the experience in that. And there's a method to it. I think some people think they can just get up and present, but to engage an audience for a long period of time, to do it without notes, is something that I'm really proud of.
For sure. So for those who don't know who you are and what you do, who are you and what do you specialize in?
I'm a Melbourne girl traditionally, so I'm glad that we could lock this in person. But born and raised there. And I guess my love of fashion was really what drew me to where I am. And it started from childhood. I think for most people, there's an underlying passion that sort of originates from childhood. And for me, it was playing Barbies and changing her outfits, or playing dress-ups with my sisters, doing backyard photo shoots. And yet, as I grew into, the teenage years where everyone's like, pick a career, something safe, something that is traditional in a way, I was really unsure where I sat in that, because I had this love of something that seemed impossible, especially because growing up, I was what they'd call plus size. People who looked like me in my size and shape weren't prominent in the media. They weren't talked about in fashion like they are today. So it felt like this impossible dream that would never really come true. So I avoided it.
Yeah.
And leaving high school, I tried a couple of other roles, but fashion was the one thing that I kept coming back to. And I think what that led me to was exploration. And I guess when I look at my career path since leaving high school, it certainly wasn't linear. I took a lot of side steps. And so now my role as a personal stylist is to empower others and educate them on how fashion plays such a pivotal role in how it transforms your confidence, the opportunities that you'll say yes to, the dates that you might get again when maybe you wouldn't have previously, because you just feel better about yourself. And I guess it's the kind of mindset and the thing that I guess I've learned through Australian Style Institute, which is now where I teach, is the foundation that the clothes that we wear play such a pivotal role in our psychology.
100%.
And it's such an incredible thing when we start to tap into that, and you notice like little light bulb moments go off for people.
When you say like the psychology, do you mean like as in what colors you're wearing, or like as in I'm wearing this suit and I walk around like I'm that guy? Like how do you mean?
Yeah, so there's actually a study that was done on this. It's called Enclothed Cognition.
Okay.
It was done by two professors at Columbia University Business School in America, Adam and Galinsky, based on an episode of The Simpsons.
No kidding.
It's interesting.
That's it.
I'll show you it later. It's
We can
actually
put a link
crazy.
in.
Yeah.
we'll
We'll attach a
have to,
link for everyone to watch for
Yeah.
sure.
So enclothed cognition is essentially the study of how do clothes that we wear play a role in how we'll show up, whether it's our attention span, how dedicated we are to a task. In some cases, it's the social construct that we place on clothing. So in this experiment that they did, they asked two groups of people to conduct something called the Stroop test, which is where if you imagine that you've got different colors written in different colored inks. So if it's the word red, but it's written in black text, they actually have to say the color that the word is written in.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I've tried that before, and I had like a stroke trying to like
Yeah.
say the right word or the right color.
And it seems like such a simple thing that our mind should be able to comprehend. And so with this Stroop test, they had Group A put on what was described to them as a doctor's white lab coat. And then for Group B, it was described as a painter's coat or an artist's smock. And if you think about the social constructs of what each of those white coats represent, depending on what you title them as, what do you think of when you think of a doctor?
White, pale skin.
I'm more than like
Bro,
what kind
professional,
of
authoritative,
smart.
professional.
Oh, of
professional.
course. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, no, yeah, 100%.
Carl went straight into racial profiling.
No, well, we were talking about colors, and the reason why I was actually asking about colors is because, like, I love the color green because it represents health, wealth, all that kind of stuff. But I was curious when we're talking about colors, is like, okay, I might like this color, but how do you pair a specific color and say, okay, this color will look good on your skin, or this one won't? Even though I like the color green, it might not fit my look. That's kind of where I was diving into. So,
Okay, cool. Can I circle back to that?
yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Because that is something that a lot of people get stuck on, and there's also a lot of
100%.
bullshit surrounding that at the moment on TikTok and stuff.
Yeah.
So I would love to go there.
Yeah.
But when it comes to enclothed cognition and you think about a doctor's white lab coat, it represents maybe attention to detail, critical thinking, the ability to be able to problem solve quickly because it is life or death in a lot of cases. And when you compare that to how you might describe a creative type who wears a painter's coat, it's free thinking, it's fluid, it's outside of the lines. And so when the people placed on the doctor's white lab coats and they were doing the Stroop test, they did half as many errors conducting that test as the people who were wearing the painter's coat.
It's crazy.
You're kidding.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, wow.
it's the same with like suiting. People feel going into a business meeting, they're more likely to get the business deal because of the confidence that the suit brings them, right?
Yeah,
At the end of the day,
absolutely,
it's the same amount. It's the same kind of cloth that you can get from Kmart, but it's the way that it drapes on your body and the way that it makes you feel.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, because if I'm just wearing shorts and a shirt, I'm just walking around like, yeah. If I'm wearing like a suit, I feel like
You're on.
confident.
You're on,
I'm on.
yeah.
I feel like, I could just take on the world. Yeah, it's definitely.
So how do you feel now, Carl?
I feel amazing.
Love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. There's also something else that comes into play with that a lot of people don't know about, which is approachability. And so if
True,
you're walking into a room and you're wanting to command attention, a suit is a really great way to do that because there's something about authority and power. The example I use often is Harvey Specter from Suits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, you can't help but look at him and go, you know your stuff. There is a level of trust and authority and credibility that you can't help but expect that the price that you'll pay for his services matches the outcomes that you'll get.
Yeah.
Just like, if you went and saw, I use this example in our classroom. I'm training in Brisbane at the moment. And the example that I used was you wouldn't go to a hairdresser, especially as a woman, and have someone do your colour if their colour wasn't spot on.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't trust that they know what they're doing. And it's
Absolutely.
the same when you're trying to approach people, especially in business and especially in the early stages as an entrepreneur. You want to be taken seriously. And I think too many people, and Australia is so notorious for this, we're very relaxed in our culture. Our language is very relaxed as well. And so you pair that with a relaxed outfit and all of a sudden you can diminish your credibility unconsciously. Because the way that someone will pass judgment on us as well is in a finite amount of seconds, really. Like the second that I walked in here, based on what I wear, you would have made assumptions about whether I'm a stylist or not. Whether you want to admit that you were judging or not, it's fact because we can't help but to do that. So style really plays this pivotal role in our ability to shape the way someone perceives us in an instant.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by that is the first impressions that we make are very little about the words that we say, but most of it is about how we present physiologically. So the way that we hold ourselves, behaviorally, the hand gestures and the movements that we make. And then it's also about visually. So what are you taking in about someone? Based on how they show up to a presentation or even a family event. Like, have you ever been to a wedding and you've noticed that cousin and you're like, did you not put any effort into being here?
Yeah.
It's just, you look at them and you're like, do you not care about the event that you're at or take pride in this? But yet, how many people understand that?
Do you believe it also comes down to like social standards as well, though?
What do you mean by
Like
social
to a degree, well, like there's a underlying social standard for how you should dress at a certain wedding, or there's a social standard for what's acceptable for what you can dress at home or what you can wear to the beach. So do you think that also plays a factor? What'd you say it was the
enclosed
enclosed
cognition?
cognition?
To a degree, yes, but it's also based on our upbringing and the values that were placed on fashion growing up. So if you think about where you learnt to dress, sometimes you don't even remember where that came from. And they say as well that you're a product of the top 5 people you spend your time with.
That's all I just
That's literally our
Saying.
motto. You're
Yeah.
the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah,
That
I've
is
heard that
literally
on a few
our
of your
motto.
podcast episodes in my research. Yeah. But it's this thing that, like, we are wired as human beings to want to fit in. And as humans, we have 3 core fears that we all feel universally at different times in different situations. So one of them is the fear of not belonging, the fear of not being loved, and the fear of not being good enough. And the way that we tend to find our tribe is by finding similarities. And even if you were different when you met, you'll probably notice that if someone's leading the way in how they're showing up to things, you want to match that so you still belong. It's why as well when people change workplaces, I know this for me when I was working for some of Australia's biggest brands in visual merchandising, I would have to adopt the style of the brand I was working for because I had to wear the clothes and represent the brand. Doesn't mean it was my style, but you fall into this trap of then being engulfed by that.
Can you use that as a positive though? Let's say that you feel that you're kind of stuck on the path you're going for, but by surrounding yourself with people that may be a step ahead of you, you may feel that you want to meet their expectation, but you want to kind of be where they are in life. So would it not be better to surround yourself with people that are in front of you?
For sure. But I guess it depends on what you're hoping to achieve by that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, not everyone is a go-getter.
Yeah.
And we need people like that in the world. If you look at, you know, the way that the world works, you still need the people who are wanting to do the blue collar jobs. That's life. Not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur. But I also think that it's also the quality of thinking, not so much about the quality of dressing, that will help you more in that sense. When I say you want to belong, it takes me back to my early 20s, which was going out a lot. I was, loved a dance floor. I'm not going to lie. Still do. But it was this moment where every Saturday night I would feel the need to go out and buy a new outfit to fit in with my friends. Because I had one friend in particular, love her to death, and she's one of my closest friends still, but she would be notorious for saying, your outfit repeating. And that's a problem from a whole sustainability lens that we could dive into. But really, it came down to the fact that they were a different size to me. They looked different in clothes, and this particular group could all swap with each other. So I felt like to fit in, I had to go and buy something new that wasn't even my style to make it look like I belonged with them.
So where was that moment in your life where it clicked with you that you needed to make that change in the way that you thought or the way that you dressed to progress further?
My mum actually bought a styling session for me for my 23rd birthday.
What a present.
So good. So good. She's actually the daughter of Don Bagnardo, who's an incredible Australian menswear designer. And I don't know if she still styles today, but she was really big at the time that I had this session. And she just taught me to stop giving so much of a fuck about what people think about my body and actually start dressing for the things that I like about it. And that was really freeing. It was like letting go of this thing about trends and actually stepping into it's okay to wear what you like.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, younger people today, when I say younger, I'm 37 now, so I'm talking, you know, 25 and below. Those people have been exposed to so much more diversity in fashion and in shapes and in sizes, ethnicities, ages, that they give less of a fuck. They're so empowered to just do what is right for them.
See, the best thing about styling though, and even what you've like just hanging around yourself, is if, you know, you feel a bit shorter, you can tailor it in a specific way that makes you look taller.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best thing that people don't actually even realize. Is like if you get like tailored clothes and clothes that fit you and all that kind of stuff, it, like you were saying about your appearance and the confidence, it actually makes a huge difference. Because like I remember even you going through it and showing me about, okay, if you have, you know, your pants at this level or your jacket at this level, it makes you look like this. And I was like, holy crap, it actually does.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, it's crazy how it all works.
It's crazy. We were talking about it in the classroom today because obviously I'm around males all the time doing the suiting. I've gotten the idea of kind of how like the body works for a male. But then I seen Claire and what she was wearing today, and she was kind of doing a bit of a illusion dressing with what she was wearing. I was like, whoa. It's crazy how much your body can just shift from what you wear.
No, and I love how you're saying about is like when you judge someone. Like, to be fair, when you walked in the room, I got like real happy, like calm vibes, and I was like, okay, this girl knows her stuff. As soon as you walked in, I felt I was like, okay, this is gonna be unreal. I'm so excited. But yeah, it's crazy what you're saying, because I've actually noticed it, and now that you've made me aware of it, I've like recognized that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
Well, you know that saying that I always say, 80% of first time interactions are judged off face value.
Face value, yeah.
It's from Claire.
Really?
Yeah. So that's what we learn in the
We're
classroom.
You already
Just
did.
give me a credit.
Yeah, sure. Bye, Claire Jensen.
So Claire, you're obviously training in Brisbane at the moment.
Yep.
Jaden's loving it. What is that class, and what does that actually look like for your students?
Yeah.
So right now we're training the Certificate of Personal Styling.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for people who are looking to become stylists themselves. My role with Australian Style Institute, who is the organisation that I'm employed by, and I've been with them for 5 years, but I was also a student, which I should say. So 10 years ago this year, I was a student learning the same skills that I'm now teaching. So for them, they're in the classroom with us for 3 days, and they're learning the framework that we teach, which is founded in human behaviour, founded by an incredible woman called Lauren Di Bartolo. You should get her on the podcast another time. If you think I'm a good speaker, you should listen to Lauren. Far out, she's incredible. Our job is to really ensure that they not only are equipped with the skills, but also the confidence. When you're starting something new, it's very easy to not move forward when you feel like you haven't done it before. It almost becomes like analysis paralysis. So in our physical training rooms, it's completely different to traditional education, to high school education. In fact, we have a lot of students who come to us saying, I'm not a very good student. And yet they can spend 3 days with us and go, I never knew I could learn as well as what I've learnt here. Because the way that we teach it is founded in human behaviour, like everything that we do. And so we're teaching them strategies around communication, building rapport. Enclothed cognition is one of the things we teach them. And then we teach them our consultation framework, which is a series of questions where you sit down with the client and you identify what they actually want. Because there's a misconception around styling, right? Which is it's only for the rich and famous, or it means that the stylist is just going to dress them like a version of you.
Well, I think, sorry to cut you off, but today's day and age, I think the people that aren't rich and famous need it more than what the people that are rich and famous. Like, I think with social media, going back to body imaging, I think social media is having a massive toll on this generation and how they kind of perceive themselves and what the norm is and how to look, which is like absolutely crazy compared to what the norm was back in the day.
Yeah, it is crazy. And I think part of the reason that why we teach what we teach is so special is because it goes deeper than just the fashion. It really is about understanding someone's rules, biases, preferences. When I say preferences, I mean how they like to wear their clothes. Because when you look at trends now, there's a big shift to more oversized. We're going back to baggy jeans, but that doesn't work for everyone. Like when I was growing up, low rise was in fashion. Now I'm really giving away how old I am. But never again will I do that because it doesn't work for my shape. And it doesn't mean that I have to do the trend. I can choose what works for me. And in some cases, fashion doesn't even have to be flattering. And I think when we start to understand the nuances of what makes people tick, so why they buy the things they buy, wear the things that they wear, it really allows us to open up a whole world of style that most people don't know is possible for them. So if I can pose a question to you all, what is your biggest challenge currently when you're shopping for clothes?
Not having.
Isaac, you're a good one.
Nothing fits.
Because of what in particular? What are the challenges with fit?
Because the pants aren't long enough, or if they are long enough, the waist is too wide.
Mm-hmm.
The shirts are too short because I've got quite wide shoulders, so it sits very high with the frame on my back. It's a very tough time, but I just basically get long line oversized stuff, and it basically allows me to get by.
Yeah. How good would it feel though if from now on you weren't just getting by, and that you actually knew what brands stocked things that would actually work for your shape?
Yeah, it'd save me so much time. Basically, that's just like a compromise for what I do, just to save the time so that I can go off and continue living.
Lucky for you, I know a bunch of stylists based in Queensland who, outside of Jaden, could, help support that, because the stylist role as well is to research those challenges, find the brands that can assist you within the budget you set so that you're not blowing out the bank if that's not something that you're wanting to do.
Yep.
and match it back with your aesthetic, your style, how you want to be perceived. And all of that is done through our consultation process. And it's not just questions, it's identifying what you like about fashion, how you like to wear, what kind of colors you like. How do you like a pant to fit? Do you want it to sit higher, lower, wider leg, skinnier leg? What fabrications are you most comfortable in? And without asking all of these questions, it's very easy to look at someone and go, you've got this body shape, you should wear this. And that's traditionally where styling was, which was in image consulting. So have you ever heard of Trini and Susanna? No. Okay. You should. They sort of brought fashion knowledge to the masses. They were super popular in the early 2000s. They had TV shows, books, were on Oprah. Like, their methodology went nuts because it helped people to be able to label themselves as something and find garments that would suffice. Sort of was rules around how you should dress based on your shape.
Yeah.
The problem is when we look at that, it's very prescriptive, and it also doesn't mean that you're matching someone's style. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So, for example, with women's wear, and I say women's wear because that's who I work with when I'm working with my one-on-one clients, predominantly women. Back in the day, if you were the traditional hourglass shape, think Kim Kardashian, broader shoulders, broader hips, narrow waist. It was said that you should buy things that skim your curves or flow over them rather than show them off. So the fact that then she's come into the world with her huge profile and gone, well, fuck you, I'm going to wear the tightest thing possible and celebrate my curves, was really like a jolt to the system for so many people who had previously been abiding by these body shape guides and rules that were designed for the general population to be able to match their problem area to something that might work.
Explain that to me though. Is there a book somewhere deep in some library somewhere that says this is what you can and can't wear and this is how you wear it? Or do you think society has played a massive role in how people perceive their own style and how they should wear it?
I think it's a societal thing. So when you think about body shape, the prescription doesn't work for a couple of reasons. And when it comes to women's wear, a phrase that has been used to describe women's body is a pear. You may have heard this yourself. But there's words like pear, apple, hourglass,
Apple.
rectangle.
Really?
Yeah.
They associate like females' bodies to fruits. It's really weird.
Wait, so just off on a bit of a tangent. What about men? What's
Like trapezoid.
Yeah.
Trapezoid, rectangle, oval, inverted triangle, triangle.
Yeah, they gave up on fruits.
Yeah.
Okay, the only one I see is inverted triangle,
Yeah.
to be fair.
Yeah. And that would be where your shoulders are broader than your
Broader
hips.
Than your hips,
Yeah.
But there are men out there who have narrower shoulders and wider hips. So they're heavier set through the midsection, meaning that sometimes the balance is out.
Yeah, okay.
So the way that you would compensate for that would be more structured in the top so that you actually create stronger angles and lines through the shoulders to manipulate balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I use the word manipulate at the risk of being misunderstood. But in this context, it's a positive because you're trying to reshape the perception based on using clothing as the tool to do that. So it manipulates the eye because we tell the eye where we want it to go based on how we dress.
So how does the eye usually travel?
Depends on what you're wearing. So a vertical line is one form of illusion dressing, meaning that could be in a stripe, for example. And that helps to draw the eye up and down because you're almost creating the visual of going lengthways up and down. If you use horizontal stripes, it creates the eye to go across like a horizontal gaze. So you can help to broaden or widen, create curve when you wear horizontal stripes. So depending on the area of the shape that you're looking to emphasize or elongate, using the principles of horizontal and vertical lines is the simplest way to do it. And it's also about where your garments start and finish. So the suit you're wearing today is all the one shade. It's the same color. But if you're wearing a black shirt, which is a contrast, black shoes, which contrast, black belt that contrast. If you swapped that out for a lighter, neutral, sort of even the color of this couch that sort of fits within that color family, you would elongate even more because you are working within the same colorways. Does that make sense? Which automatically helps to create one seamless viewpoint or gaze vertically up and down.
It's not like a blocker.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So if I was to go for like a cream shirt, do my belt and shoes have to change?
Yep.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you were to even just change the shirt and the shoes but keep the belt becomes the focal point. because it's the
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
it's the visual break
Yeah.
where your eye is automatically going to go.
So you run at the risk of then looking wider, don't you, if the belt's a different colour?
If that's your widest point.
Yeah.
But the eye will naturally go to that point because that's where the break in the color is. Yeah.
It's like a pattern interrupt. Naturally,
Correct.
you're drawn to the pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
There's a really famous magazine editor. Her name is Diana Vreeland, and she's famous for coining the saying, the eye has to travel, meaning that when you're dressing, you control where you want people to look. It's why some people will go for really bold colors top to toe, because then you're just going up and down, up and down. Or people have a brooch or a really interesting pocket square, or they might have a really interesting detail on a shoe, or they'll cuff their pant, because then it helps to manipulate where the details are and where you're telling someone's eye to travel.
So, excuse my ignorance, but for a shirt that's like super striped or super out there, like maybe something like your shirt, is that something that would grab your attention, or you think there's too much going on, so you'll look somewhere else?
Not necessarily, because it's in the way that you then break up the body as a whole.
Okay.
So there's something called the rule of thirds.
Yeah.
They often use it in architecture and design, but when it comes to fashion, it still plays a role. The most flattering options for body shapes is to work within a rule of thirds. So it's either 1/3 top, 2/3 bottom, or it's 1/3 bottom, 2/3 top. Okay. The minute that you cut someone's body in half, knowing that generally across the hips, across the thighs and bottom, that's most people's widest part, especially for women, you suddenly then create a distortion and they can look shorter, fatter. Most people don't want that.
No.
Unless you're Isaac, who maybe wants to look shorter.
Touching on females though, and you mentioned before it's your main clientele when you were doing styling.
Mm-hmm.
What's the most common thing that you see with issues that they may have psychologically or physically?
Psychologically is a big one, and it's just conditioning for everyone.
Yeah.
It is the rules that have been placed on them about what's appropriate. You've asked me a question before about like weddings and the societal like constructs of that and the values. If someone isn't dressing up to meet a dress code, for example, it's usually because they're not aware of what a dress code even is, and it's because they haven't been taught. But if I ask you right now, say you're invited to a cocktail wedding, what are you wearing? What's the outfit? You're like, well, just ask a stylist.
Yeah. I'm actually
I'll
keen to
ask
see.
Jaden straight away. Hey, what do I wear?
Yeah.
Cool.
First of all,
But,
what's
like,
a cocktail wedding?
If you had to pull from, like, say you get a last minute invite,
Yeah.
the wedding's tomorrow. I can't tell you how many times when I worked in menswear, I'd get someone come in on Friday night
Yep.
and it's the tradie who's walking in and he's like, I've got an engagement party tomorrow and I need a suit. And I'm like, great, whose engagement? He's like, mine.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, are you fucking kidding me?
That's, we live the last minute.
Well, it's worse than they need a suit, mate. I've had people call me like 2 days before saying, "Hey, can I get a suit, mate? My wedding's on Saturday." I'm like, "Mate, I can't help you."
Yeah.
Like-
Yeah. It's crazy. Just, yeah. But
Anyway, cocktail. What would you wear to the cocktail?
yeah.
wedding?
You want me to answer it? I
Yeah.
actually came to
What's
see
a
what you
cocktail
said.
wedding?
I don't know.
This
I've
way.
only got like 2 or 3 suits, so I'll just wear my grey suit with a white shirt. And
Would you tie or no tie?
No tie.
Okay.
I feel like that's way too like professional, or like, you know, what's it called when you have like all the black and white? What's that?
Black tie.
Tuxedo.
The black tie events, I think.
Yeah,
something
so
like that.
decoding dress codes, if you're looking for more information, Australian Style Institute, actually, it's our #1 hit blog post on our website, decoding
Okay.
dress codes.
Yeah, wow.
Because there's so many different ways, like garden party versus cocktail versus black tie
Oh,
versus
that's green
formal.
for sure.
Well, I mean, for women, we're like
Yeah.
florals,
Florals,
for
yeah.
spring, groundbreaking.
Would be earthy tones for gardens, though, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily. Sometimes it's brights. It can be your version of style for that, but generally speaking, black tie means like tuxedo style.
Tuxedo, yeah.
That was what I was thinking of.
Tuxedo.
Yeah. It'd be the same for cocktail attire, though, wouldn't it?
Not tuxedo. Cocktail, I would generally say you're looking at shirt and tie. If it's like a garden
No suit
party,
jacket.
no suit jacket, absolutely,
yeah,
like
suit
suit,
and tie.
shirt and
Yeah.
tie. For like a garden party, something more relaxed and casual, then I'd be going maybe more of like a fun printed shirt, a blazer, a pant, no tie.
See, I don't know what it is. If it's just me, maybe it's just me not understanding styling. But I don't like shirts on me which have like prints.
Okay,
Like
might just be your preference.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause,
Is
like,
there a shirt that like is your trigger point? in your life, maybe.
Like, as in, like, I don't like.
No, that maybe you were forced to wear or something like that.
Like
Because
a
sometimes
trauma.
it's like like a PTSD relationship.
Oh,
with
School
clothing.
shirts.
Nah,
School shirts.
deep.
To be fair,
Yeah.
not really. I just know that, like, I know for my 18th birthday, I wore a black shirt which had, like, little flowers all over it. I looked back at the photos and I was like, that's just not it.
That's the trigger point.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And
But
then
maybe
now I
it
just
was-
don't like flower. I just like a plain. Like, I just got black and white shirts, simple as that.
Okay. We can work with that.
Yeah.
Because color, I'm all meant we can improve
Prove
that.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's yeah, people have the most interesting rules about things that they will wear. You know, whether it's color pairings, print and pattern, styles of things. For so many people, it's about necklines or how much of their arms that they're willing to show.
Yeah.
How many buttons on a shirt is appropriate to have
Appropriate, yeah.
undone before it's uncomfortable or weird.
So what are some of the frameworks that people can use to dress better? Is there any like overarching ideas or principles that we need to follow to dress the best way we
Yeah,
can?
yeah. 3 things that I'd recommend. Number 1 is take stock of what you currently have in your wardrobe. There is no point investing in you if you have items that already work. Because what you're looking for in the wardrobe is what still fits. The amount of times I work with people who say, oh, but I plan to lose weight. Or, you know, I'm planning to get back to, you know, in the gym. So I'm going to bulk up a little bit more to fill out my shirts. I'm like, great. But you can have the style that you want without having to change your shape. If things aren't physically going to fit, the other thing is the time frame that it takes to change your body shape. Often because it's such a slow process, you outgrow your style by the time you end up at that goal.
Before you get there, yeah.
So what happens is the things that you think you're going to fit back into, doesn't matter whether they still fit. They're probably not your style anymore because we evolve faster than our wardrobes will. So taking stock and really evaluating, what do I actually really love? What do I wear on high rotation? And also when it comes to menswear, the condition of the garment. Condition meaning, has it got a stain on it? Is it completely worn out? If it's got a print or pattern, is it faded? Is there marks on the collar? You know, pockets falling off, buttons that are lost. Well, in some cases, those things can be repaired. Are you actually going to invest in that? If not, let it go. We actually have a new partnership at ASI with a brand called Recycle. They actually have these little bags where you can literally scan a QR code. They'll come and pick it up and take it away and recycle it or repair it and move it on.
Yeah.
It costs money to buy it, but you're investing in a sustainable way of disposing of your garments. It's estimated that, you know, there's 23 kilos of clothing, I think, that are purchased by an Australian every year.
What causes people to want to purchase though? So purchasing decisions, maybe coming back to your merchandising. Why do you think people want to wear the cheaper options? Is it because they want to be perceived a certain way from society?
I think sometimes it's just what they can afford.
To be fair, like, when it comes to clothing, people spending like $500 at Gucci, I can't fathom that. Like,
That's cheap. $500. Like,
and
Yeah.
that's the
Like
crazy
for-
part. But like, even these name brands like Gucci and Louis Vuitton, to be honest, this might sound really bad, but I get a nice plain tee from Uniqlo, I'm cheering. I'm like, this quality's great.
And
But then-
Uniqlo is great for
Is
them.
great, yeah.
I know.
Fantastic
And
quality.
then I go to Louis Vuitton, I'm like, how is this shirt, like you're talking about like craftsmanship, how is this shirt worth like $400? Like, is there a difference between the craftsmanship with like Louis Vuitton and like the brands you work with? Because when I see Louis Vuitton and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, you know, it's just like,
It's a status symbol for sure.
yeah,
status.
it's just a brand, in my opinion.
It is. And for some people, that speaks volumes. And I think the people who, there was a trend recently called quiet luxury. It was less about the logos on the clothes and more about just knowing that you were wearing it. So it was for you. But if someone asked you, it's like CrossFit, right? You know when someone does CrossFit, 'cause they'll tell you.
Yeah.
I used to do CrossFit and date a guy who was a coach for it. And I understand that world, but it's also like the community that then you vibe with and the status that portrays you or the level of fitness in a CrossFit realm. So sometimes it's about how fashionable are you based on the labels that you wear. The interesting thing about spend is we will all have a monetary threshold of where we start to almost choke on the number of what's appropriate to spend. So if we look at your example as a t-shirt, What is the most that you would spend on a great
I was
t-shirt?
just thinking about that as you're saying that. To be fair, if it's anything over like $100, I'm like, that's insane.
Yep.
Like $100 is like, even like for a nice like button up or a nice tee. Like I got some really nice like flexi ones, which are like really good. They were like $80. I thought that was a good deal.
Who helped you get those?
Yeah. Yeah. But anything over like $100, I'm just like, I can't justify it. Like I've worked, you know, an hour or whatever it is just for that one.
You'd hate to know how much Campbell's spending with me on shirts.
And then you got to pair that with the pants and the shoes. Like all of a sudden you're wearing $500, like a whole bloody, week's work. Just
Potentially,
Because
yeah.
like when I can go to Uniqlo for $25, get a really nice fitted, comfortable baggy tee. I can't see myself spending $100 on a shirt when that's so accessible and so like it's breathable. They're just like.
Well, you can make any garment, and Claire will agree with this, look expensive.
Yep.
I
How you
went
wear it.
I went and spent $200 at Kmart the other day, and
Yeah,
I
you said,
rocked up, and they were like, "Where's that from?" Like Kmart, and they were like, "That looks expensive." So it's the way that you put it together.
Yeah, of course. That's the skill.
So if yours is like $100, where does yours sit?
For like a t-shirt.
Yeah, a t-shirt.
Pressure's on you.
Like just like a regular t-shirt
Mhm.
is probably like $250.
200.
What about for you?
$30.
Again, if it genuinely fits me, which is nearly impossible, I would pay at the moment would be 50, but if it was tailored, let's say 75.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What if I told you that someone has once told me they would spend up to $1,000 on a t-shirt?
I'd say they're mad. I'd say they're mad.
So our role as a stylist is to suspend our own, I guess, barriers of entry for price,
Yeah.
for any rules that people have. And I was at a presentation as part of Melbourne Fashion Festival recently. My mum was in the audience, and my boss / mentor, Lauren, was presenting. She asked the crowd the same question, but about a pair of jeans. And I deliberately watched my mum's face when Lauren said, "And what if I told you that someone would spend up to, $1,000 on a pair of jeans?" And my mum literally choked on her own air. She was breathing. Because for my mum, that is just not fathomable. But then I have had clients in the past who have $10,000 to spend in one shopping session in 3 hours.
Yeah. I think the thing for me is I don't understand it. Like with my cameras, for argument's sake, you can spend $1,000 on a good camera, but I'll be like, yeah, I'll pay 10 grand and get myself like the top notch one.
So it's all relative, right?
Yeah.
But I
Where you
understand
place
it.
the value is where you'll spend your money.
Yeah, but I think for me, I don't understand the clothing that I'm buying. Like I don't see, okay, why is this valued at this much? Because if it was like $250 or $500, I don't mind as long as like I know what I'm getting is worth it and like I understand what it is, if that makes sense.
So this will loop back into the three things. I'm really you've given me the perfect segue. So after taking stock of your wardrobe, you need to identify the gaps that you have, whether you've removed items, but also it's not about just replacing for the sake of replacing items that you're moving on. It's about considering, if this is where I've been, where do I want to go and what do I want people to know about me based on what I'm putting on? So, for example, there's a styling principle that we use called structure and flow. Structure is elements where you think about angles, high-level garment construction. They're generally more masculine style pieces. A blazer is a great example, a tailored trouser, a corset if you're a woman, or a button-down shirt with like a stiff collar.
That's structure.
Structure. Flow is the opposite to structure, where it has a level of fluidity. It's generally something that when you put it on, it falls away from the body. Fabrication plays a big role in that. And generally we associate it with more feminine style pieces. And so when you're looking at your wardrobe, you want to consider, do I always feel like I'm really dressed up? Or do I always feel like I'm a little bit too casual? That is a really good indicator of whether you need to add structure or flow. Because I have people say, I always feel like I'm dressing for work even on weekends. I'm like, great, you need to add flow, which could be, rather than a crisp cotton shirt, it's actually a linen. Or it could be about adding some more tees. Or it might be, rather than having a blazer all the time, it's about a soft bomber jacket
Yeah.
that is going to help you reduce the level of professionalism or structure that you're adding to your outfit. Just as much as I have people say, yeah, I'm always feeling like when it comes to the weekends, I don't have the things that help me relax. Or I don't have the things that when I get invited out to dinner or, to an event, I really struggle to feel like I'm elevating what I'm wearing. And that's where adding in a blazer, a dress shoe. In some cases, it's more about leather belts, accessories.
For sure.
That can make all the differences to the balance of the outfit. And structure and flow don't have to work in perfect balance. So you're not looking for always perfect 50-50, but you're looking for the right balance that let you feel like there's enough variety and variation in your outfit options, so that when you are dressing, you've got things available no matter where you're showing up, that you still feel like you. So taking stock and then evaluating the gaps, looking at structure and flow would be the first two things. The third is to identify your actual style. There's a process we use called style category. So it's looking at imagery of outfits and going, what do I actually like about that? Whose style do I admire and what is it specifically? Because I've had clients come to me and say, I love your style. And I could go, great, I'll dress you like me. But I know for a fact, based on human behavior, that I could do that and they still wouldn't feel like them. It might look great, but it's not going to resonate with who they are as a person. So the better question that I ask is, well, what is it about my style that you like specifically? Does that make sense? Like there's a distinction in the quality of the questions that we ask. So you need to ask yourself, what do I like about this person's style specifically? Is it the way that they, have things tailored? Is it the way that they're able to put color together? Is it the way that they have some uniqueness because they drop in a print or something unusual?
Yeah, I like that you've said that. It's like, it's been getting me thinking because for me personally, I think I like the more flow and old money kind of vibe. But I think my barrier is the fact that I don't understand it. I don't have the energy to be going out there and spending hours like trying on this and saying, oh, does this work with this? Or does this fit with this? And like, I know sometimes if you have some free time, you'll come with me. But it's just like,
He's going to start charging you for that now, by the way.
Yeah. I don't.
I've done down as his mentor, being like, Jaden deserves to get paid.
what goes with me. So like, I know this kind of style that I like, but it's just like, I don't know exactly, and I just can't.
You have a lot of flow. Like, I feel
like my whole wardrobe's
flow. It is most of it. I did a presentation last month on structure and flow, and I want to ask you this question. They were having issues with how they were presenting themselves on social media. They were very structured in the way that they presented themselves and built a lot of authority through what they wore. Do you think structure and flow has an impact on how you're perceived from other people, where when you're wearing flow, you're really open and inviting because the outfit's really flowy, whereas when you're wearing structure, you're really...
Not necessarily. Because flow can also mean that you're too relaxed.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to position yourself as an expert, for example, too much flow can make it seem like there's not enough structure in what you're going to share, or there's not enough validity.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, professionalism with flow.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the difference is,
would you say that Campbell's professional in what he wears? Just for an example of someone that you know.
Yeah, but I think it's structured.
Well, if I put him in a linen shirt, what he's wearing now, would that be structure or flow with the linen shirt?
That'd be flow.
More flow.
More flow.
A shirt. Yeah. So here's the thing about structure and flow. The way that you identify whether a garment falls into one of the two categories is by using what we call the structure and flow hierarchy.
People have just graduated high school. They're looking at getting into the business field. What do you think it takes for them to best represent themselves with their style? Whether it's wearing a suit to work or to that job interview, what do you think's the best garment to wear to those sort of situations?
The biggest challenge young people have is being taken seriously.
100%.
So there's often this mindset piece that happens, which is, am I too young to do this? Am I going to be taken seriously because of my age? The quickest way to overcome that is to appear ageless, and structure is the fastest path to least resistance with that.
Yeah.
Structure meaning a blazer of some kind,
so
or
I
a
need
shirt.
to change my whole wardrobe.
That's the thing. You don't have to change your whole wardrobe.
No.
And this is part of the misconceptions of styling, is that we expect you to throw everything out and start again. It's not about that. It's about identifying what actually does work. And the reality is we are so close to our wardrobes and there's so much emotion attached, and we have all these. Have you ever heard of the sunk cost fallacy?
The what, sorry?
Sunk cost fallacy.
I haven't.
So this is, I guess, like a human behavior thing where people will stick with, say, a relationship because they've invested 4 years already, even though they know it's not the relationship for them. But they're like, but we've spent so much time together, and what about the kids, or what about the dog? Or they make all these reasons why they're going to stick it out, even though they know it's not right. When it comes to fashion, people do the same thing. Oh, but, grandma gave this to me and she'd be devastated if I got rid of it. Or, I spent so much money on this, or I bought it overseas and it holds sentimental value. The reality is, though, if it doesn't serve you, let it fucking go.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it takes up so much mental capacity to have those things in your wardrobe that you can't see clearly. It's estimated we work with our wardrobe and we only wear 20% of it 80% of the time. The old Pareto principle, 80-20.
Pretty true, to be fair.
Yeah.
You were saying before about like something that you have with like wearing the same shirt and you kept going out and buying new. I had that similar issue because like I'd get maybe a different pants or a different shirt, but I'd wear maybe the same pair of pants but a different shirt, and they're like, oh, when you were wearing those pants last week, and I'm like, I need to do something about this. It's like I understand, yeah.
Yeah, I took Isaac on as a pro bono client in forms of kind of. What?
Oh, I just find that so interesting because compared to what I would personally believe,
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, bang for your buck. You make your combinations, and you've got all these different options, and all of a sudden it looks more acceptable, and then you don't see them for 3 times, and you can wear that same thing that you wore the first time.
Well, how many
They don't
outfits
remember.
the other day when I come to do the styling consultation, did you walk away going, I didn't even know that I could pair those two together?
Yeah, it was a couple. Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember how many.
It's something that's so fascinating when you look at. Part of it is something called the reticular activating system.
The what, sorry?
The reticular activating system. I'm blowing your mind.
Yeah.
I can see it. And I
He's
love
like-
it. It's so good.
I could sit here all night. I'm loving this.
It's a function in the brain. We all have one, and it's our filtering system. So it focuses in on what we like and what is familiar to us. Everything that I'm sharing is what I teach at ASI and what I've learned through Lauren's methodology.
Sick, where do I sign up?
I can help you with that too.
I'll take a referral code.
But essentially what that does is it means that we naturally filter out anything that we don't like and what's not familiar to us. Okay. So imagine you're at a set of traffic lights, right? And depending on what kind of car you drive, there could be 30 cars at that intersection. You will probably notice the car that's the same as yours. Or if you're in an Uber, maybe the same as the one you're in. Why? Because suddenly it's in your peripheral vision almost. It's familiar to you. Or if you're anything like me, I decided that I wanted a Hyundai Kona. Me and my partner are talking about buying a new car. I see them fucking everywhere. Before, I wouldn't have even known they existed. And now they're in my reticular activating system. So what tends to happen is when we shop, we end up with more of the same pieces because it's what's familiar to us.
That's
and when we are laser focused on those things, we miss out on everything else that's actually available because there is so much available. But our vision is almost like a horse in a horse race with blinkers on. When we are like tunnel vision, we can't see everything else because if we were to take it all in, we'd be overwhelmed. So when you work with a stylist, our role is to almost observe your reticular activating system and where it is, ask those questions in the consultation and find out, well, if that's where it is, where do you actually want it to be? Because our role is to move you into who you are, not where you've been. And through understanding that, we almost like put on a different set of glasses and go, right, well, now I've also got to suspend my own judgment of what fashion is, look through your lens and take it to another level. And you can't see that because you're so close to it.
It's actually funny you say that because I didn't realize the other day I was working on set, and every day I came to set, there was this one girl, she'd come to me she'd say, "Oh, stripes again," and I didn't realize genuinely until I looked at my wardrobe, and I have more of like the flow button ups, like kind of I wear long pants and like just a flowy button up. 90% of my t-shirts are striped.
Yep.
And now she said that, I'm
checks
like,
out.
wow. I had no idea. Now I'm trying to figure out. Okay, I'll wear like a shirt with no stripes, and she'll recognize that. And I was like, yeah, but it was yeah, it's really crazy.
I know that a lot of your community that you've built are predominantly male, or at least identify as male. So here's something that tends to happen when males change their style. There is often an alpha in the group who, if you aren't the alpha, or you're more of like the more reserved type and you start to change your style, something that can happen, I'm making a sweeping generalization here at the risk of being misunderstood, but you know, the alpha type will see that change in style and their reaction is to almost be like, bro, what's this? Like, who do you think you are changing this up? Like, oh, got a stylist, fancy you. Like, they'll pick on you for that.
Do you think you've got that through what you've worn, people commenting on your outfits? Because now we've gone from like the corporate wear to now kind of you own this, like, suit doesn't wear you.
To be fair, in the office, like with the wardrobe that we've created, is just like completely different to anything else anyone wears.
Yeah.
So I don't get it like openly said, but you can feel like they're like looking or they're making assumptions.
Well, a prime example is that new blazer I saw because I've been close mates with you for a very long time and I've never seen you wear anything that bright, and I'm like, you're literally wearing the definition of the blue. If you said blue was my favorite color as a
12-year-old.
kid, yeah.
Cool.
It's blue. and if that's what he resonates with, that's what he resonates with. That's what it is.
So, two things that I want to touch on real quick.
Go for it.
One, for the three principles that we have, which are go through your wardrobe, understand what you currently have. So then number two has
Identifying the gaps.
exactly identifying the gaps, filling them in, doing the flow versus structure conversation. And then three is taking inspiration from others, and is it okay to sort of copy others and look at certain people, basically copy what they have, look at other people, copy what they have, and just craft your own version of what your ideal wardrobe looks like.
Of course.
Just copy.
What's the word that you always say?
I say a lot of words.
Yeah, true. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. True. But I think when it comes to style, you can make it your own, for sure. The tricky part comes when you admire someone's style and you can wear it. So I have a friend. She's known her since we were 4 years old. We've always grown up being roughly the same shape and size, so we've clothes swapped a little bit. I think she has some of the most amazing style I've ever seen, and she fucking owns it. And part of me is like a little bit jealous because I have tried those pieces on and it just doesn't look the same on me. And she goes, oh my God, it looks amazing. And I'm like, but it just, for me, there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I can't appreciate her style, enjoy it, would want that for myself. But when I put it on, it's not me and who I really want to be. So if I was to wear that, I couldn't show up and be authentic. So I think there's a level of taking inspiration, but then you also have to understand that if it doesn't resonate, it doesn't mean that you can't wear what you want. It's about finding the version of that works for you. So what you were saying is true in a way, like you meld a couple of worlds together to find your own version of that.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, I have no style sense at all. I don't know what really, I don't know about colors. I know what goes with that. I heavily rely on sort of creating outfits, and I'm like, okay, this outfit works, I'm just gonna wear this, and then I'll wear the next outfit. So taking that inspiration.
I'm gonna throw you under the bus for a second because I want to get Claire's opinion. So Campbell, before I met him, went and got a color analysis done. What's your opinion on that?
Color analysis. So while we're talking traditional, you went and they placed colored drapes on you. Cool.
He's got like.
What was
the
your
booklet.
result?
I don't know. I have a book that tells me, I don't remember it.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
I was cold.
Cool.
Gotta wear like.
It
I
would
told
be
him
cool.
to throw it out.
I'm
yeah.
holding in so many jokes right now. It's just
Let him go. I want to hear.
Yeah.
Let him out.
Under the bus entirely.
Yeah.
I
I'm all about that.
Yeah.
So color is such a fascinating thing because when you look at the world of, social media at the moment in fashion, there is a lot of people out there doing color analysis in that way. It's not wrong. A lot of the principles that are applied there are about enhancing your natural beauty or natural features. Generally speaking, when we're identifying what colors work best on someone, you want to make sure that you're not drawing color away from their face. You're actually enhancing color, increasing the vibrancy of someone's eyes, making their cheeks look a little bit pinker. Maybe there's more pink in the lips. In some cases, it's about, smoothing over any skin irregularities, imperfections, pigmentation. In some cases, it's about helping to create more of an ageless appearance because it can reduce the look of fine lines and, dark circles. The wrong color will actually emphasize all of those things. So when you're getting the drapes, it works because it shows you really high pigment colors up close. So that's great. The problem with it, though, is when you get that little swatch book of colorways, because color is such a visual thing, and I believe it's like 86% of consumers will say that they'll make a purchase based on color alone. Mm-hmm. So if color is the only thing you're focusing on based on swatches that have been, for lack of a better word, prescribed to you, what happens when those colors aren't available in the store?
I don't buy anything.
Yeah.
To be
Exactly.
fair, I purchased most of my clothes based off color.
Yeah.
Entirely.
Yep.
Greens.
Yeah. Like,
So color is part of RAS as well. You will naturally imagine you're walking into a store and they've got green on one side, and what's a color you wouldn't usually wear?
I wouldn't wear like red
Red. Cool.
or like yellow.
Cool. So imagine that on the other side there's the red, yellow sort of things. Even if they're subtly in a print or pattern, you are more likely to avoid that whole section. Even if it's only one or two pieces that are scattered throughout that clothing rack, you'll avoid it like the plague because color is such a visual draw card. So because of that, though, you are missing out on every other option that sits in between it.
If I'm honest with you, a lot of the color I do go for, to be fair, is black and white.
Yeah. It's simple.
Is that bad though? Because that's predominantly, I have a few colors, but a lot of them are quite dark.
Do we need to do a style consultation, Kyle?
I don't know, maybe.
Is this going in? Do I need to go to my car and get my form out
book.
and get to the bottom of this? Because a lot of the quality of question that you're asking is fantastic, but it's very personal.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So when it comes to those sorts of things, the best thing you can do is actually start to look at where your bias lies when it comes to color, and also stop limiting yourself to what you think is working.
Yeah. So if someone was in my position and they only have black and white, you'd recommend like not limiting it and kind of opening.
The beauty of shopping is you don't actually have to buy anything.
Yeah.
So you can actually just go into a store and try things on and put them back and then walk out.
When do you think, though, is the right time to get a stylist? What does it take for someone to kind of click and go, okay, I think now is the right time to consult someone?
Good question. Can I finish my other answer first? Otherwise, I'm never going to come back to that question.
Yeah, of course.
So with the whole, I guess, color opportunity, when it comes to color analysis, like I said, it's not wrong. However, the more empowered way to observe color would be to say anyone can wear any color. It just depends where it's placed on the body. Meaning that if you were told that, an orange, for example, wasn't your color, it wasn't in your swatches, doesn't mean you can't wear that. It's just that you wouldn't do it in a color that's really up close to your face.
Sure.
You would actually maybe put it in a print or a sock or a tie or a pocket square. Whereas if you eliminate all of those options, all of a sudden your pool of what's available to you is very narrow. And as humans, we don't want narrow choices. We want options. And so when we're limited, we all of a sudden feel like we can't buy, we don't know where to buy, and we don't know what works for us. Because if you can't find it in the store, you can't shop, is the reality of it. So when you look at color, you've got two color families, clear and muted. Clear colors being ones that are really vibrant, saturated, rich in hue. Muted meaning that it's almost like you've taken a paintbrush, dipped it in water and diluted it. So if you think about your suit color, it's a muted green. Think about like an emerald green or a really rich grass green. That is a clear color. And generally you will suit one or the other best. With men in particular, especially when there's facial hair involved, when you're trying to determine what colors work and what don't, it makes it a little bit more challenging because you're only working with part of their face if they've got facial hair all the way around, like a full beard. So you're only working with the skin tone and eye color that you can see through here.
Would you say that this would be a muted or a vibrant.
It's muted.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not super bright,
Okay.
but it's
No.
also
Just
still quite
Look
like.
at the
It
bottom.
is rich
Heavier.
in
Yeah,
color,
yeah.
but the difference is more about the vibrancy of that color rather than saturation, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Generally, in terms of like lighter colors and darker colors, in the lighter color family, you've got white, off-white, cream, and beige. White generally would suit people who wear clear colors really well. Off-white can work, but you put them in something that's a beige or a cream and they look what, have you ever heard the term like being washed out?
Yeah.
Like some people will say, oh, I feel really washed out in that color, or I feel like I look tired in that color. It's generally a good indication that it's not the right color for them.
Okay.
Whereas when it comes to darker colors, you've got charcoal, gray, navy, and like chocolate browns. And generally a black is something that's more saturated and a clear color. Navy's pretty neutral, like an off-white, but then brown and charcoal tend to suit people who are more muted. So if you're wondering what you are, go into a store that has, even like Uniqlo, right? In their knitwear section or their tea section, they will have a variety of clear and muted colors. Put them on. Be aware that fitting room lighting is god awful. So there's a little bit of leeway there, but start to notice if I have the clear color up near my face, do I look more tired? Is there more grayness around my eyes? Do I look washed out? And then versus the other color where it might be like, oh, I can see that my lips look a little bit pinker, or actually, you know, I don't look as red if red undertones are in your skin tone, or actually I look like my skin looks a lot clearer in this color. My eyes look more vibrant. If anyone's ever told you, wow, your eyes really pop in that, it's a good indicator that the color works for you.
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Big time.
Very.
Big time.
You're welcome.
So we also run, obviously, Gold Coast's largest networking events for future leaders in their 20s. What should someone wear to go to a networking event who's in their 20s, looking to network and grow their professional circle? What should they look at wearing and to interact and show themselves off as a professional and build those genuine connection with people?
Cool. I'll give you one tip. It's called the Vital V. The V meaning that there is a neckline that you can wear, which automatically gives the sense that you are more open and approachable. So if you're wanting to talk to people, avoid anything that's super high. Even just that slight little V at the bottom of your throat, near the start of your collarbones, is enough to show that you are more open and approachable than what it is if you have a suit and tie on. Unconsciously. It's just something that tends to be a block. So if there's one thing I can recommend, it's being mindful of the neckline that you're wearing, and also be comfortable.
Yeah.
Sometimes at those events, especially if you're a woman and you're standing around for 3 hours and you're in heels, let me tell you, boys, that ain't easy. I spent 8 hours in these heels today, even longer now, and I'm tired.
Yeah.
So, you know, just being mindful of how you're going to be interacting with people is the best thing. And show up in something that makes you feel like your best self. It's nothing worse than going in feeling like you're uncomfortable in the outfit. People notice that stuff. The fidgeting, the pulling on, you know, yeah.
Gives you a
That's
lack of
amazing.
confidence, though, wouldn't you
It
say?
does.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest change that I saw in my 20s, so for most of my 20s, I was single. And it was the biggest drop to my confidence was the fact that I couldn't meet someone. And I placed it on a lot of other reasons other than the fact that I just wasn't showing up as my authentic self. And yet fast forward to being in my 30s, a bit of a train wreck time in the UK where I ran away for a little bit to sort of sort my life out, got really humbled by career. And I came back and it was like things just started to shift. And it was about owning the fact that I am who I am and I'm not going to try and conform to other people's ideas of who they need me to be anymore.
Yeah.
And that changed everything. From my business to my goals. In fact, coming back from that holiday, I was gifted a dream journal where one of the activities in the dream journal was to write down 101 dreams. I think I've got to like 68 in there at the moment. And I actually looked back on it on the first day going back to work after Christmas this year. A couple of things that were on there was to buy a house in a particular suburb of Melbourne and renovate it, make it my dream home, buy a dog, land a gig being a trainer at ASI, Australian Style Institute, and, you know, meet the love of my life.
Here you go.
Tick, 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 tick.
Fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
I mean, it's been 4 or 5 years, right, in the making. But
You've done it.
Would you
I
say
think-
that's manifestation?
to a point, but it's also backing yourself
Yeah.
and being really resilient when shit gets tough. Because rejection is so real. And the one thing that I can lean upon in moments where I know I need to show up as my most confident self is what I wear.
Do you also think it's like taking risks?
For sure.
Yeah.
I have a tattoo.
Yeah.
I got it drunk in New York when I was 21. I didn't even pick what I've got tattooed on me. It was someone that I was traveling with who's like, you've been singing this song all summer. Get that. That's pretty cool. So here I am in a bar in Brooklyn, leant over a chair, had way too many margaritas. And the song, so it's song lyrics that I have tattooed on me that says, let go, jump in. It's by this really unique kind of song that I found. And even to this day, one of my best friends, when I'm being like risk averse, she's like, let go, jump in, Claire. You got it tattooed on you.
Yeah.
And I think, well, she's not wrong. And it is a mantra that I often come back to, which is this thing of you will get rejection and you will have moments that feel really challenging and like you're being tested. But you actually need to lean into those because they're where the biggest lessons are. And I think for me, style has been the biggest transformation of leaning into, because I always felt like I couldn't show off certain parts of my body because people would make certain assumptions, or, you know, people might look at me and go, well, she's the fat friend, if I'm being brutally honest, when I used to hang out with the girls in my 20s. And all of that made me shy away from being the actual outgoing person that I am. And you fast forward to now, and of course I still have hang-ups and days where I don't feel my best, but I think about all those things that I've been able to tick off my list, and I'm like, I fucking got this.
Yeah.
And I know when I put on the outfit to match that attitude, I'm unstoppable. And I don't think people realize the power of a great outfit enough. But also, like I said, we're not taught how to find that. So if you are struggling, reach out to someone who knows it better than you. You know, part of the reason that I know you guys started this podcast was to bring in people who are wiser, further ahead in areas of your life you're looking to improve. If fashion isn't it, outsource it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's literally what we do. It's my passion, and the best moments are the ones where a client texts me and they say, you know, landed that next promotion, or finally went out for that date night and got lucky.
Love it.
And I'm like, yeah, you did.
Yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
It changes everything.
Well, I want to touch on that, bringing it back again, is when is the right time for someone to think to themselves, okay, now is the time to hire a stylist?
Whenever you're stuck. Whenever you are like, I can't do this on my own.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong time. It's personal.
For someone looking for a stylist, let's say they're doing the discovery calls. They're not stopping at the first stylist. They're kind of seeing who's out in the space. What's your advice to a client to pick that stylist? What should they look for in a stylist to say yes?
Good question.
Reach out to @Jaden Scott.
No, Claire Jensen style. Thank you. No, I mean, I work virtually with clients, hint, hint. But there is this sort of moment where you will resonate with someone based on the way they portray themselves.
Yeah.
Whether that's a level of confidence, how they dress, their approachability, their journey to finding their style. I know a lot of people who come to Australian Style Institute looking to become professional stylists have experienced some sort of confidence transformation, and they're looking to gift that to others, and their journey is what will resonate.
Yeah.
And that's literally it. Find the people who, you know, you relate to. It's so much easier to want to open up to someone who you feel understands your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be cautious not to get into the theory of everything here, but how do you find yourself in regard to like what it comes with your style? You say, you know, do what feels like you and feels like this and that. But particularly we come across a lot of people at Forge and everything who are trying to figure out what it is exactly, who they are and what they're trying to do. So what does that look like when trying to reflect that through style? Because like I've only just started figuring out what it looks like me in terms of career and what I'm trying to do there. Now it's yeah. How do you do that when it comes to the clothing that you wear, and how can you try and translate that?
Good question. So there's an exercise that we do with clients called style categories. I mentioned this before,
Mm.
where we start to look at images and resonate. And in this activity, when you do it structurally with an ASI trained stylist, because no one else teaches this. That's why I say that. It's
Claire.
exclusive to what we do.
I've
never
done
said
that and I
he's
was
done it.
still pretty lost. So
Cool.
yeah.
So it's either because it wasn't set up properly for you to achieve the results that were required, or you were caught up in trying to get it right rather than focusing on what you actually like. So who is someone's style?
I think you've nailed it there because I'm always everything's so black and white. Like I'm very what's the one when you're analytical?
AD,
Yeah.
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 What's AD?
auditory
digital.
It's a modality.
I love how you turned to me. I'm like, yep. Yeah, these two are very, AD.
Yep. So AD is someone who's really process driven. So when
Yep.
I'm saying feel, the reason that that's not connecting with you is because that's a modality that's based on what we call kinesthetic.
Yep.
So I'm talking in a different modality to how you process information.
Mm.
So the easiest way for me to say this is when you're looking for clothes, what's the criteria that you need it to meet to make it worthwhile for you to purchase?
Fits well. And it's simple. It's not too out there because naturally I already stick out quite a lot being tall. So naturally I kind of want to blend in as much as possible to in that sense.
Can I take this somewhere for a second?
Sure.
Why do you not want to stand out?
Well, I already stick out like a lighthouse. So there's I'm not sure. It's like I do stand out already, but there's standing out and then there's almost being perceived as, I mean, it could be an underlying thing there, being perceived as like the clown. You're so a sore thumb that you stick out so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And what would be the problem if that was the case?
Well, it's just because, as you said at the beginning, when it comes to the fears, naturally you've always just wanted to fit in.
Yeah.
And that's a massive fear. That's why I started Forge.
Mm-hmm.
I've never fit in and I've always wanted to find why I can fit in. And if I try and associate myself with the out there style as well as how much I stick out, and I don't naturally operate the same way as most of other people,
Okay.
I just seem like that outcast. But again, there's the Dr. Seuss why fit in when you're born stand out. But there's whole like, yeah, I get like why you mean that and why you're pushing me down that way in this conversation. But
He's processing
Yeah.
as you're.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So would you want an out there style?
No.
Okay. What is, like, if we were to go shopping, what is the most out there thing that I could put you in that you'd be like, please get me out of here?
A bright blue suit.
Well, bring it back to what's in your wardrobe at the moment, even. Would you say that maroon jacket that I made you was like on the verge?
yeah, it's pretty close. But I've always loved maroon. Like it's just been a color that I've always really liked, and because it is on that darker color, but still it's a strong color and it's a powerful color. So I wouldn't go to the dark red, but to red. But maroon is kind of like my limit there.
Yeah.
Hence, like why it's still like a strong green on this jacket, but it's not.
It's
It's
subtle.
not an emerald like
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
like a big traffic light.
I
so.
think when it comes down to trying to find personal style in that way, it's about understanding most people will have a set of criteria, whether it's based on how they look, how they feel, whether it is going to help them get to the next level in what they want. There's going to be a checklist of things that they need to tick off. When you work with a stylist, it's our job to understand your way of processing that checklist and helping to create a language that's almost like your style DNA. And through that, then it's about helping you like find the right pieces that marry up to that. So in saying that, now that I know a little bit more about you, I don't know enough to like suddenly shop for you. But I would say there's a level of wanting to hold authority and be taken seriously, but you want to do that in a subtle way. But I think if you've started Forge to get people to find you that are like-minded, there is a level of you that actually needs to forego that perception of, am I sticking out too much, and go, I'm sticking out for a reason so you can see me and find me so I can create the tribe that I want.
The ladder.
Yeah.
I think somewhere along the lines there probably is a moment, this is where childhood comes into it, I'm not a qualified psychologist, I'll just say that. But I've worked with enough clients to know that there is some point along the way where maybe you were a little bit out there and someone has said something, and whether you consciously remember it or not, there is a reason why people believe what they believe, and it's because, it struck a chord emotionally, and there could be a reason that's why you won't or don't want to go into a different sort of place. The best thing you can do is take it too far and know when to bring it back. If you're working with a stylist, part of our job is to put you in the most out there thing that we can find at some point or another.
I can't wait for you to see what I have for you.
But it's like to stretch you out of that comfort zone. And you need to then be, the thing about working with a stylist is it's collaborative. We're not there to tell you what to wear.
No.
There also needs to be a two-way conversation that happens where you need to say, whoa, this is too much.
It's very intimate.
It is. It really is. And so you are doing yourself a disservice in a styling session to not tell the stylist when they've taken it too far. So if someone like you're working with Jaden and he pushes you too far, you need to say, bro, this is like, we're too many steps ahead here. And he will have the skills and knowledge to be able to go, right, where do I need to adapt now? If this is the edge, the drop off of comfort zone, how do I get you to a happy medium, at least for now? Because there will come a time where the further you push it, a mind once stretched can't go back to its original form. Same with style. You stretch yourself far enough and you'll keep going. But you've got to be open to the process. Does that answer your question?
Man.
Yeah.
To an extent, it just shows, because you can have all sorts of things that are limiting beliefs, you said, in regard to some of the things you've experienced throughout your whole life, which can subconsciously program literally everything you know. Well, what a lot of people say is in the first, 5 to 8 years of your life, almost builds every single attitude and value that you have.
0 to 7, it's called imprinting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it almost embeds into every single attitude that you have and why you do it. And you need to try to unlearn it if you want to be open to other things.
Yeah.
You are absolutely amazing. I say it all the time, and I'll never stop telling you. But before we go, I want one bit of knowledge. What do you think are 3 staple pieces people should have in their wardrobe?
A blazer,
Yep.
a great pair of jeans, and a quality basic t-shirt.
Love it.
Literally, that is the foundation of a great starting point of a wardrobe. Fit with all 3 of those is integral. So I'm talking shoulder line, waistline, length, and not just length of the pant, but length of the sleeve makes such a big difference on men in particular. Because some of them, especially with a shoulder line, you want the seam to finish right on the side of the shoulder, unless you're looking to create more width in your shoulder line, in which case you might do more of a drop look. But making sure that it finishes at the point of your arm that you're wanting to show off. Because sometimes guys have really good, I'm a sucker for this. My partner has amazing arms. Hi, Rory, love you all the time. But he works out a lot. And so when he wears a t-shirt and it cuts him sort of right across the widest part of his bicep, I'm there.
Yeah.
Like,
Does it make makes the bicep look bigger too?
Exactly,
doesn't it?
because you're cutting it off at the widest part. So being aware of those little details about, like, even the subtlety. Some people just wouldn't even consider that.
Yeah.
But it's that'll take it from being like just a white t-shirt to making it look like it was made for you. And when you can wear that, even if it is a t-shirt, jeans, and a blazer, you can still rock up feeling like your best self.
Is that universal for men and women?
Yep.
Love it. Where can people find you on social media?
Claire Jensen Style, and please give Australian Style Institute a follow as well.
100%. Love it. Well, thank you, Claire. Awesome.
Thank you. That was so fun.
Thanks for coming on.
What a podcast. I feel like we could sit here all night
We-
getting
we
into
sure-
your
yeah,
consulting
yeah,
styles.
yeah.
Let's
You're getting a lot
perfect.
of free advice here.
Yes. No, for sure.
Last question before we do finish this off. Who do you want to see on the next podcast?
Great question.
I know you said some lady before. Can you-
Lauren.
Lauren
Can you
Di
organise
Bartolo
that?
for sure. James Smith.
James.
Do you know James Smith?
No.
I probably know A. James Smith from.
So James Smith he's an online PT. Started his business like 7 years ago. Brilliant content creator. Has a thriving online coaching business internationally. Has spoken at international fitness events. But incredible businessman. Great insights. No bullshit. Swears like a sailor.
Love
if it wasn't for Rory, I'd say he's my future husband, but he's actually already taken. But I have always admired his mindset when it comes to business, and I think he's got a lot of valuable insights that could share.
Right, we're coming for you.
Well, Lauren, James, I'm sure Lauren will hop on at some point for sure. Well, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to check him out on social media, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Claire Jensen, everybody.
Thank you.